It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. The name of the band there is Trauma. Some of you may or may not remember these guys from way, way, way back in the day.
Yeah.
This band featured Cliff Burton before he was in Metallica. Well,
right.
at the time, it was Metallica.
Right.
After he was, gone to the big metal scene in the sky, it was Metallica. But anyway... the name of that tune is called Bringin' the House Down.
Right.
And Bringin' the House Down, Chris, on the phone, we got vocalist of Trauma, Donnie Hillier. Welcome to the Classic Metal Show there, Donnie.
Thank you. Really good to be talking to you both, Chris and Neely. Good to be on the Classic Metal Show.
Are you familiar with us?
I have been doing a little bit of research, so I have been reading up on you guys, listened to an interview you did with Jeff Tate, and I can see that I have a newfound show to listen to.
That's very nice. Now, was this the Jeff Tate, or was this the real Jeff Tate?
Well, I thought it was the real Jeff Tate. Did you guys not do an interview with him?
We did.
Recently?
We did.
Yeah, okay.
Jeff Tate actually has been the most frequent visitor of the Classic Metal Show over the last 18 years.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He's been on the show, I believe, what, Chris, like 21 times?
Yeah, some crazy number of times.
Wow, nice. I was pretty impressed by some of the guests you guys have had. You really have a good show going here.
Well, we're a big show there, Chris. I mean, you're really lucky to be on, to be honest with you. I mean, we only go with A-list celebrities, but somehow you squeak through, and I'm not sure how that happened.
No kidding.
I'm not sure how that happened, but here you are, so let's make the most of it.
Well, I do know how it happened, but I'm not going to tip you guys off. You might plug that loophole up.
All right, Chris, why don't you go right ahead and speak to Donnie?
All right. Well, Donnie, obviously, man, it has been a very long time since Trauma was an active band. So why don't we start with kind of the here and now, and maybe you talk a little bit about how the band decided to come back together after so many years apart.
Sure. So what happened really? The catalyst for this was that members of the band had been approached by a few different record labels to see if there was any interest in re-releasing Scratch and Scream. The Scratch and Scream album's been pirated a lot, and there have been some bad quality recordings out there, and so a couple of different labels had approached us within a short time, and this was about 2 years ago, and so we let Mike Varney from Shrapnel Records know that. Shrapnel Records is the recording company that released Scratch and Scream back in the day, and Mike Varney, I don't know if you guys know him, but he continues to have the Shrapnel label and also a blues label. And at any rate, Mike said, no, nobody else is going to re-release it, but I will. And at the same time, he thought it would be a good idea and encouraged us to put the band back together again. He thought it would be good to have a real band to support that. And he'd always been a supporter and a fan of the band. We've been in touch with him off and on, especially our drummer, Chris Gustafson, runs into Mike a lot. Mike has a really high regard for our new guitarist, Kurt Fry, and has known him forever. And so it just seemed like the time is now. Chris and I had talked through the years off and on about putting the band back together many times, but Chris has been really busy on the road with various bands, doing a lot of projects. I've done projects, and it just seemed like the time was now to do it.
Sure. Now, as you mentioned, it's been out of print for a really long time, and I've got to imagine that at some point with the impact that Cliff Burton had, back when with Metallica, and then obviously he became almost legendary when he passed away, there had to be a lot of people that wanted to put Scratch and Scream back out there and put the Trauma music out there, you know, more or less to strike while the iron was hot type of a moment. What was it that stopped you guys or stopped the record companies from doing that?
I don't know. I don't know that I was in the loop. If there was interest back then, it's almost like the interest was more recent. And so I do know that, you know, from time to time other people have suggested you guys should reform. And all of the members of the band that were on the Scratch and Scream album, in the back of their mind had thought that would be a good idea someday. But why now? I think it was just like I said, that catalyst of there being labels actually talking to us about it, and Mike Varney, you know, saying, no, this is a band that was on my label, so I will do this re-release.
Excellent, Donnie. I had heard a rumor years ago about the title of Scratch and Scream. I heard, now you correct me if I'm wrong, I had heard that the original title was called Scratch and Sniff, but I heard that Cliff rejected that and said it's Scratch and Scream because that's more metal. Is there any truth to that at all?
There's really no truth to that, but you're not the first person that's suggested there's Scratch and Sniff might be appropriate. We've had a few people joke with us about that.
Sure, absolutely. But in all seriousness, since you guys kind of were, you know, early purveyors in the Bay Area rock, metal, thrash scene in the 80s,
right?
How strong was it back then? And, you know, was there a cutthroat rivalry between you and some of the other bands that were just popping up in that Bay Area scene at all? Or how was it back then? Yeah.
Well, okay, so yeah, back in those days, when Cliff was in Trauma, there was Law's Rocket, Vicious Rumors, Exodus, Trauma, some of the bands on Mike Varney's label, Hex, Chastain, and I would say that I think there was a fairly respectful relationship. I don't really think the members of Trauma were necessarily friends with the guys from those other bands. We played shows with those other bands, and I think everything was cordial. But I don't feel like there was any, real sense of community among those bands. So, yeah, I guess there was kind of a natural competition. Cutthroat, I don't know about that. Of course, everybody's fighting for gigs and all of that. But the scene was pretty healthy. There was a lot of metal around and a lot of fans for it. But again, the things I remember about it was not really feeling a sense of community with other bands. But knowing them, playing with them, watching them play and all that, and just, I think the members of Trauma had more kind of a respectful distance.
Well, just admit it there, Donnie. You guys were just hateful, belligerent motherfuckers back then. Just admit it.
That's what I said, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, speaking of this Scratch and Scream, how come there was never a follow-up to it? What happened there?
We actually wrote all the songs for a follow-up. We did a 2-track recording, and what happened was, I think when the band started really dissipating was that Chris Gustafson, our drummer, moved to Los Angeles. His wife was going to school there, and Chris's intentions was to stay in the band, come back for shows, recording, and it just didn't happen that way. It's quite a distance, you probably know, from San Francisco to L.A., and Chris did come back on many occasions for shows and to work with the band, but little by little he got more immersed into the heavy metal scene down in L.A. and started doing some sessions down there. He did 4 albums with a band called St. Elmo's Fire, and then they did 4 U.S. tours, and little by little he drifted away, and you know, it just the distance was a problem, and we had tried to replace him, and really never found the right drummer. Our bass player at the time, the man who replaced Cliff, was a man named Lucas Advincula. Lucas was kind of hard to locate for a while. He kind of went a little reclusive, and so we had kind of a revolving door of bass players and drummers for a little while. I started being recruited by a band called Heist, which went on to have some success, and so the band, you know, the band members kind of scattered to the wind. One of our guitarists was beaten up pretty badly leaving a party one night. It's kind of a random act of violence, and then a couple of the members of the band became born again Christians, and so it just, like I said, we just kind of, you know, went our separate ways.
Sure.
And a number of the members of the band, really everyone but me, left the Bay Area.
Okay. And what kept you in the Bay Area?
I love the Bay Area. I wasn't really planning on relocating anywhere else. I moved to that band Heist and spent about 3 years with them, and kind of went from band to band, and just, you know, just as things happen with musicians.
Sure, definitely. Well, let's talk about the current Donnie. Clearly, at some point here recently, you guys decided, you know, through the discussions with Mike Varney and what have you, to put it back together. I'm curious how long, you know, it took you guys to find the chemistry back as a band after being apart for, you know, the better part of 30 years. I mean, was it instant? Did you have to rehearse a little bit before you found your groove, or what?
Yeah, well, and that was kind of a time-consuming process. Actually, about over 2 years ago, all of the members of Trauma that played on the Scratch and Scream album got together, and I can't say that it went very well. And so so we, you know, were playing those songs, the Scratch and Scream songs, and it didn't sound very good. We got into, you know, signing contracts for the re-release, and just kind of hit a slow period. And Chris and I realized that some of the members of the band just had a lot going on in their life other than music, and we just felt that after giving it quite a lot of time that we needed to get in the rehearsal studio and be aggressive. I mean, you guys know that it takes a lot of work and a lot of time, a lot of dedication to have a band, and so a few of the other people just couldn't do that. One of them lived in Southern California, so you have that distance factor right there. And then one of the guitarists was just too busy with his personal life to commit to the music. We tried working Lucas, the bass player, into the new lineup, and tried that twice actually in the last year. And he has a young family and just other personal commitments, so he couldn't really commit the time to it. So that led us to, well, even back when Lucas was going to work with us, we had Kurt Fry, the guitarist, as part of the new lineup. Now, Kurt's a well-traveled guitarist, recording musician. He's traveled all over the world. He goes way back to Buffalo, New York, played in a band with Billy Sheehan, played in a band with Lou Gramm from Foreigner, has been on the LA scene, the Bay Area scene. He's played in bands that have opened up for some real superstar bands like Van Halen. Knew Ronnie Montrose really well. Did a lot of gigs with Montrose. Kind of like that. He's got a lot of credits, a lot of credentials. And now I go back to Heist with Kurt, which is over 20 years ago, and between me playing with Kurt in Heist, our drummer Chris Gustafson played in a band called Mechanism with Kurt, and they put out 2 albums and toured with some pretty well-known acts. So there was kind of people who knew each other really well. As part of this new lineup, we're going to have Steve Rebello, who played in a band called Dublin Death Patrol, with the former singers from Exodus, Steve Souza, and Chuck Billy from
Testament.
Chuck, and with Chuck Billy, he toured Europe with those guys. He was going to be part of it, but he couldn't do it because of business commitments. So you see, we spent some time getting the band lineup together. After that, things started moving more quickly. Everybody learned the Scratch and Scream album, and then we wrote a new album's worth of material, which we have just finished recording last week. And so it's all been recorded and mixed and is about to be mastered. And so that was kind of a long-winded answer, but.
Oh, that's good though. So when do you think we'll just a two-parter? When do you think we'll get the new music released, and how does the sound compare to, obviously the main piece of audio that we've ever heard from Trauma, which was 30 years ago?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the songs, no 2 songs there are 10 songs on the new album. We're really happy with the way they turned out. No 2 songs are quite alike. As you know, they're classic metal as well as you would imagine. They're classic metal sound, thrashy, and there's some melody to them. They're aggressive songs. The way we recorded them, the rhythm section is very present. You can practically hear every drum hit, every kick strike, definitely snare, cymbals. We wanted everything to be heard, otherwise why is it there? Then there's really aggressive, thick guitar sound with the vocals over the top. So it's a heavy metal album, and again, there was no formula to the writing, but we all are musicians who like melody. We like power, we like aggressive, but we also like melody.
Yeah, I like melody too there, Donnie. She's going to stop over here a little bit later and, service
Give her my best, please.
Right. All right, Donnie, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to us here on the Classic Metal Show. Welcome back after 30 years, and it's cool to have something re-released after so many years, basically just shitty recordings, and having a nice quality recording of something that was recorded, 34 years ago?
I think 29.
29? Yeah, my math isn't so good. But regardless of that, welcome back, and we're looking forward to the new music from Trauma. But until then, we've got the old Trauma to keep us, keep our appetites whetted, as it were. And where can people find out about Trauma?
Our website is traumametal.com.
Okay. Awesome.
And I guess that's the best place.
That's the best way.
And
all right.
The album's available, as you can imagine, at most online outlets. It's Barnes & Noble and Amazon and iTunes, and just just search Trauma, Scratch and Scream, and pages will come up of places you can get it at different prices. And just buyer beware of anything that was done prior to October of 2013, because it may not be a very quality recording. So get some of the new stuff. The key word is remastered album.
Right. All right, Donnie, well, we appreciate you taking the time, but before we let you go, we need to ask you the traditional classic metal show question. We've asked probably over 600 people this question, so you're one of the fold. How has Lemmy from Motorhead influenced your career?
Lemmy, he's tremendous. He's, there's a video on him that they play on cable, and I've watched it 3 times recently. I think he's a tremendous person. I'd love to meet him. How has he influenced the career? God, he's just the real deal. He's another bass icon. His influences go back. He goes back to talking about Little Richard and so he's a musical historian. I think he's tremendous, and thank God we have him on the planet.
Absolutely. All right, well, Trauma is back. They've got the re-release of, is this your debut? You would say this is your debut, right? Scratch and Scream?
Yes, it was, yeah.
All right, so they're back with their debut, re-release, remastered, re-released, Scratch and Scream. Look for a brand new Trauma release coming very soon. And, Donnie, I think we're going to play Such a Shame featuring Cliff Burton, the dearly departed Cliff Burton, and tell us a little story about it.
Cool, yeah, that's the first song we ever recorded. We went to a studio in Sausalito, California, which is a really kind of a nice community. That's where the Plant Studios were, and so this studio was right down on a pier, and so there's sailboats outside and all of this. Kind of a small independent studio, and our manager at the time had arranged for that, and that was really everybody's first experience in a recording studio. And so we recorded that song. I guess that was maybe 1981. And that song was submitted to Brian Slagle at Metal Blade Records, and he put it on Metal Massacre 2, Volume 2.
Excellent.
And so we got a little bit of notoriety out of that, and so Such a Shame was a really good song for us.
Excellent. All right, well, go pick it up. It's available now, remastered and sounding great. So here it is. This is Trauma with Such a Shame, exclusively here
on your classic metal show.